Today, we are starting a new Dynasty series with one of these SEC schools, and each of these episodes is going to be a season at a time. It's going to be very quick paced. Anyway, on offense, we're going to be going with the spread, and on defense, we're going to run the 4-3. I went with pretty standard settings, no custom sliders, and we ended up choosing Vanderbilt to be the team we were going to run with. Before Texas and Oklahoma come over to the SEC, we have a few seasons to establish ourselves, but just like in real life, that realignment is creeping up on us. Vanderbilt was only willing to offer us a one-year contract. The only two things Vanderbilt has going for them is their conference and academic prestige.
It's a shame.
We got to start out by recruiting some new kids to come to the school, and with pipelines set up in some of the big football states in America, I was not surprised when all these highly ranked recruits wanted to come and play in the SEC. Anyway, Mike Wright is our starting QB for the season. He's got a little bit of speed on him, but he does not have a great arm. Our receiving core has two senior leaders in Cam Johnson and Chris Pierce Jr., but unfortunately Chris Pierce Jr. is kinda slow with 74 speed. And on defense, the big name to know is Elijah McAllister. He's the senior captain. But next to him, we also have some younger guys in Nate Clifton, Ethan Barr, and Anferny Orji, who will all be featured on this defense for the next few seasons. Anyway, before we get into our week 1 game against our rivals Ole Miss, I went over to the preseason rankings and I had to scroll all the way down to find Vanderbilt, but there we were, right at 107. We were also projected to finish last in the SEC East and last in the SEC as a whole. It's time to go into our game against Ole Miss. Kirk Herbstreit thinks we're going to start the year with a loss, but we're at home, so we got to put up a good fight. We were going to have to figure out how to shut down Matt Corral, but we didn't. We did not shut him down at all. Mike Wright also had a terrible first game, and we were ready to just jump into week 2. We were going to be taking on Middle Tennessee State, and I was relieved that Kirk actually thought we were going to win this game. Recruiting wise, we did have a couple of 5-stars that we were looking out for. I also found this guy named James Parker. He ran a 4.36, so I'm going to try to bring him in, but it's time to go out and beat Middle Tennessee State. We ended up starting out really hot. Mike Wright threw this jump ball up to Chris Pierce Jr. in the end zone, and he came down with it. And after that hot start, we never looked back. Mike Wright sealed the game for us with this run right here, and we were excited to win our first game of the season. In week 3, we had to travel to South Carolina, and this was a great chance for us to get above 500. After playing a great first half, South Carolina came out early in the second half and just started dominating. Our first half defense that held them to 3 points absolutely collapsed, and we ended up losing the game 33-7. Week 4, we were staying in state and we were going to take on Memphis. The previous week, they put up a great fight at number 3 Oklahoma, and we knew that Calvin Austin III was going to be tough to stop. The conditions weren't great, it was a rain game, but coming out early, Chris Pierce Jr. somehow ended up catching this pitch and pulling off an amazing spin move, all 74 speed of him, and we were off to a hot start. By the end of the third quarter, we were down a touchdown, and Mike Wright came out and threw this horrible interception. We were able to get the ball back though, drive down the field, and tie up the game with a touchdown. And we ended up having a chance to win the game. It was a Hail Mary. We roll out with Mike Wright, and he throws it about 20 yards, which meant it was time for overtime. On our first possession, we came out and scored a touchdown, and then Memphis responded with this amazing run on their first play. I tried, but I was not able to stop Brandon Thomas. In second overtime, Seth Hennigan came out, and he found this absolute dot over the middle, but Mike Wright responded right back. He threw a touchdown, and he ended up setting a school record for most passing touchdowns in a game. This is where I made a bad decision. I decided it would be smart to go for 2, and we did not get it. On the bright side, we did get our first commit to the team, but Mark Bird was just a 2-star punter. We did have a lead on 5-star athlete Greg Miller, and we were going to play an FCS school this week, so we ended up setting as many visits as we could because I knew we'd win. Our team was excited. We were going to come out and get our second win of the year, and we started throwing early. We threw this ball up to Chris Pierce Jr. and he came down with it. What a catch. And on the next play, Mike Wright goes right back to Chris Pierce Jr. and you can see there's a great connection between this QB and wide receiver. We ended up winning the game 34-7. We play Missouri in week 6. Going into the fourth quarter, they had double our score, but that didn't stop Mike Wright from coming out and throwing an absolute dot. And then he went down the field again to throw another dot, except this time it was an interception. And from there, we lost the game by 24. We were going to finally get a much needed bye week. Unfortunately, on the other side of that bye week was a ton of very tough games. Midway through the season, Tavian Thomas and Adrian Martinez were leading the Heisman watch. We were sitting at the bottom of the SEC East, and Oklahoma, Florida, Cincinnati, Nebraska, and UAB were all undefeated. Georgia hadn't had a great year, but we were at home, so maybe we were going to put up a good fight. Mike Wright could come out and play amazing. The only issue with that is he didn't come out and play amazing at all. He started off with this terrible interception, and our team finished with 145 total yards of offense. They absolutely obliterated us. Next week wasn't looking any better. We were traveling to College Station, and Kyle Field is a hard place to play at. However, early in the second quarter, Mike Wright came out and he threw this absolute dot. Later on in the second quarter, Mike Wright hit him with the read option, and we took a lead on Texas A&M. In the fourth quarter, we found ourselves down 10, Mike Wright rolled out, and we ended up getting within 3. We would need to get a stop on defense though to get the ball back, and on 3rd and 9 they handed the ball off to Isaiah Spiller, and we wrapped him up in the backfield. So they went ahead, took their 3, and went up 6 points, and this is when Mike Wright came out to lead us down the field, and instead he threw that terrible interception. That's the end of the game right there. And that would be our 6th loss of the season. With our Week 11 game coming at Florida, they were coming off a loss against Georgia, but we had to win this game at the Swamp. If we didn't win, we wouldn't be bowl eligible. Early in the second quarter, we found ourselves with a lead, but then Mike Wright threw this interception, down 10 on 3rd and 19. We did have a great pass here to Chris Pierce Jr., and on 4th and 3, we had to come out and convert here if we wanted to be in the game, and we did. We didn't get the onside kick, but we did come out, used all our timeouts, and stopped Florida, which meant they were only going to have a 6-point lead. On the kick return, Cam Johnson took it out, and all of a sudden he cut to the outside, and it looked like he might be gone. And he is. He is going to go all the way. We're going to take a 1-point lead over Florida, and that was such a huge return. I have to say stop, though. Look how much time's left. Emory Jones still had a chance to lead Florida down the field, but then he threw this terrible ball, and we dropped the interception. I ended up trying to blitz to try to keep him out of field goal range, but Emory Jones found the open wide receiver, and all of a sudden we were down 35-28. I thought maybe we can throw it up. We got to get all the way down the field with no timeouts, and it didn't work out. And now we were no longer bowl eligible. Going into week 9, this is what the top 10 looked like. And although we were nowhere near the top 10, our team was playing better. So I felt like we had a chance going into our game against Kentucky. It was a snow game. It was going to be a hard fought battle. And early in the fourth quarter, we ended up taking a 24-21 lead. Will Levis let them down. They got a field goal, but we had the ball, and I had a plan. The plan was to run out the clock, kick a field goal at the last second, and that plan looked like it was going to work. We took our timeout with 2 seconds left. Even in the cold weather, Mark Stoops tried to ice us, but I gotta say, it didn't work, and Vanderbilt was going to come out and get their 3rd win of the year, and it was just a great moment to celebrate in the snow. That win made our athletic director very happy, and it also ended up putting Mark Stoops on the hot seat.
Just a little.
It was finally time to take on our biggest rivals. We were playing at Tennessee, and Kirk Herbstreit didn't think we stood a chance. Going into the last SEC game of the year, this is what the standings look like. Early in the fourth quarter, Mike Wright came out, and he threw this absolute dot. We had tied up the game, and now we were getting the ball back. And I wanted to do the same thing against Tennessee I did against Kentucky, but that was until Will Sheppard got wide open. Mike Wright hit him in stride, and we were up 7. Hendon Hooker took Tennessee down the field, but on 3rd and goal, we got this huge sack, and all we had to do was stop them here on 4th and goal from the 15, and we were able to take him down, and that was back-to-back huge wins for the program. It was finally time for the team's vacation in week 14. We were even favored to win, so the team took off to enjoy their stay in Hawaii. Meanwhile, some of our biggest recruits were about to be on their week 14 visits, and I was really worried we were going to lose them. We had built a decently solid recruiting class so far, and this is what the top 10 looked like going into the last week of the season. I thought we were going to go into Hawaii and easily win, but I was wrong. It was clear the players were more focused on enjoying their vacation, and Candace Lee was not happy about how we played. I just had to hope she was going to offer me a new contract. Mike Wright had a pretty solid sophomore season. Reamon Davis and Mike Wright led the team in rushing, and our slow wide receiver and Chris Pierce led the team in receiving. We also had some really solid defenders this season. Utah running back Tavion Thomas won the Heisman, and now it was time to see who would win the college football playoff. This is what the field was looking like. Alabama went out and beat Oklahoma in the first round, while Michigan lost to Penn State. So the championship game was set, and late in the fourth quarter, Bryce Young had a chance to take Alabama down the field and take a lead on Penn State, but on 4th and 6, he threw it to Brian Robinson, and he wasn't able to get a first down. So Sean Clifford ended up leading Penn State to a national championship. With the season wrapping up, we saw that Mike Wright set a new school record for passing yards, and there we had it. There was the new contract offer. Vanderbilt offered us a 5-year extension, and you know, we took that.